Grace the Groove is a method of supercharging your nervous system to do more reps. With frequent submaximal sets throughout the day, you'll improve much quicker than a full-blown workout. The goal with Grace the Groove is to improve the software of our body, making our nervous system more efficient and effective to increase our strength. Grace the Groove is less fatiguing compared to our conventional workouts because of the intensity that we're using. It allows us to do more practice, more reps, and improve the skill of exercise. For intensity, we want to be working 50 to 70% of our maximum. If we look at pull-ups as an example, say you can do 10 reps as the best of your ability in one go. With 50%, that's 5 reps. So throughout the day, we're going to be doing sets of 5 reps, just sprinkled with plenty of rest between each set. Around an hour is a good overall guideline to disperse your workload throughout the day. In terms of how many total sets, this is going to depend wildly on person to person. You want to be fresh. You want to be finishing each set feeling like you've got more to give, and you want to be finishing the day like you've got more to give. That's when you know you've done the sweet spot of sets for your body within that 4 to 10 range as a starting point guideline. This allows you to get in a ton of reps and really build the skill of exercise. In this case, the pull-up. How you do these sets is entirely up to you and your schedule and also your preference. You can do them every hour on the hour. Otherwise, you can have more of a conditional setup. Something like every time you go to the toilet, you do a set of pull-ups and you repeat that throughout the day until you've accumulated enough sets to suit your level. 4 to 6 days per week works perfectly for Grace the Groove. Anything less, you're probably not doing enough total number of reps, total amount of practice, and you're not getting the full benefits of Grace the Groove. If you're doing every single day, I don't know many people who can tolerate this amount of workload. From a physical perspective, you're just more likely to run into some aches and pains. Otherwise, just getting psychologically burnt out, doing the same thing every single day without rest is quite unrelenting. So I'd recommend that 4 to 6 as the sweet spot for most people. With Grace the Groove, it is extra homework in addition to your normal workouts. So you're still doing your training 3 to 5 days a week, whatever workout split that you're currently following. It's just this Grace the Groove is extra throughout the day, how many days you decide to Grace the Groove, and it works because it's sub-maximal and we're able to do it in addition to our workouts. With Grace the Groove, do only one exercise with this protocol. This way you can direct all of your energy, all of your resources into improving this one thing, improving this one skill, and it's much better than trying to do 2, 3, 4 exercises in a Grace the Groove protocol because it just takes too much time. It can be extra fatiguing to do too many things at once, and really just give yourself the opportunity to specialize in one movement, because seeing that progress with the Grace the Groove with one exercise will really drive you to be consistent. Major takeaway for you. Do you need to warm up before greasing the groove? No, that's a common misconception. Because we're working sub-maximally, the risk of an acute injury is so low that doing a warm-up before each set would waste time and it'd be redundant. The only thing I'd say is if you're greasing the groove first thing in the morning as soon as you get out of bed, I'd probably do a general warm-up like a walk just to get blood flowing through your body. But otherwise, the merit of Grace the Groove is because you're doing it throughout the day, into the afternoon and the evening. We know that our core body temperature increases, so there's no real need to warm up. Just do your Grace the Groove exercise. In terms of progressing Grace the Groove, the first thing to understand is less is more. Because we're working so many reps and we're working sub-maximally, it's more about what happens in the totality of your training over the course of weeks. But sure, every few weeks, feel free to increase the number of sets you're doing. You can also increase the frequency, and you can also increase the reps. By doing more sets, you obviously accrue more total reps, which is good for this neurological adaptation. By increasing frequency, it allows you to spread your total work over more days and also accumulate more total practice. And with reps, this, by increasing it, actually increases the intensity. So be really progressive with how you do this. Auto-regulation is helpful when it comes to Grace the Groove. Don't be super rigid in what you're doing. I have to do these sets. I have to do it this many days a week. You can play with this over time. The human body is so complicated when it comes to its adaptation capacity. You're going to have great days, you're going to have neutral days, and you're going to have days where you feel really tired and weak, to be honest. And you need to roll with the punches and be willing to adapt and change how much you're doing, how often you're doing it with Grease the Groove. What does matter is that you keep greasing the groove and being consistent with it in a weekly basis. So how long should you grease the groove for? 4 to 6 week blocks of Grease the Groove work perfectly. When you finish this block of Grease the Groove, you've got a few different options for what to do next. You can retest your maximum and enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's not unusual for you to go from, say, 10 pull-ups to 15, even 20 in some case. I've heard some crazy results of people making huge progress in a short period of time. And then you can be satisfied with that, dust off your shoulders, and just resume your normal workouts, cease Grease the Groove. Otherwise, you can use this new maximum to once again do another cycle of Grease the Groove on the same exercise. Alternatively, you can try and Grease the Groove with a new movement. Something like push-ups is another common one people love doing Grease the Groove with. And this just allows you to ride that rapid neurological progress for another 4 to 6 weeks and rapidly improve your reps on a new exercise. So who created Grease the Groove and how does it work? Pavel Tsatsouline is the pioneer of this method. He was a trainer in the Special Forces and he also popularized kettlebells throughout the Western world. So shout out to the master Pavel Tsatsouline. I mean, think about it. If someone had a gun to your head and they said, if you don't double your pull-ups in 2 months, we're going to kill you and your family. You would not be doing pull-ups twice per week like a regular workout split. You'd be doing it 4, 5, 6 days per week to really try and improve your reps as quickly as possible and to the largest extent. Exercises or concepts that come out of Europe just tend to be universally badass and effective. Bulgarian split squats, Romanian deadlifts, Nordic curls, German volume training, the Bulgarian method. All of these things are insanely difficult, but they're effective. The hard stuff works, especially in an acute setting. So why does Grease the Groove work? High volume, high frequency, submaximal sets short of fatigue is the magic combination. By doing plenty of pull-ups, we're mastering the motor pattern of the exercise. We're improving the software of our body, increasing the efficiency and effectiveness, making us stronger to do more reps. The key principle with Grease the Groove is we're practicing the skill of exercise compared to pushing ourselves really hard with our regular workouts. So what are some of the downsides of Grease the Groove? Well, you only get better at the exercise you Grease the Groove with. By doing pull-ups, you'll get better at pull-ups, but don't expect your deadlift, don't expect your squat, don't expect your bench press, don't expect your push-ups to improve. That's the specificity element of exercise, and it's something to understand. Grease the Groove is great for strength on an exercise, but it is poor for hypertrophy or building muscle. We know that when we want to grow tissue, we need to be taking our sets close to failure, and we're greasing the groove. We're doing the exact opposite of that. We're doing sub-maximal sets. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm going to grease the groove, and when I'm doing my pull-ups, my biceps, my back is going to grow as a result, I hate to break it to you, but we know based on the science of hypertrophy that we're not ticking that box of effort relative to failure. We'll get stronger on pull-ups, but we won't grow massive by greasing the groove. Overuse injury is pretty common with Grease the Groove when people don't follow it correctly. When it comes to a new method, people get excited, they start seeing results, and then they make the mistake of doing too much too soon in the way particularly of frequency and the amount of volume. This can lead to tendon-related pain, especially with pull-ups, getting golfer's elbow, overuse injury quite common, or even just sore joints from the exercise. It's a downside because I know people just get too keen and really want to just push themselves to the max, taking a sprint approach instead of a marathon approach. It's something to be mindful of. If you're getting these overuse symptoms, you need to dial things back in terms of the total amount of Grease the Groove that you do. For most people, it's hard enough just to work out 3 to 5 times a week for an hour. By greasing the groove, you're adding just that extra thing that you have to do throughout the day. Mentally, you're thinking about it. You know you're tracking how many you've done. You know that you've got to do more throughout the day. And although it doesn't take much time in each particular set, it's just having something additional that you have to factor in to arguably most people's lives where they're maxing out on the things that they're doing with work, social, etc. So keep that in mind. If you tend to have a lot on your plate, then Grease the Groove might just be too much homework for you. Not everyone is working from home. Not everyone has a pull-up bar at their office or equipment such as barbells to do squats every hour on the hour. So just a practical consideration is the availability of equipment, as well as fitting it into your day in a way that is actually practical and that is actually possible. Lastly, there is some interference or compromise when it comes to your regular workouts. If I'm doing pull-ups with Grease the Groove, there is just no way that I'm going to be able to train insane on my regular workouts with the exercise that I'm greasing the groove with. You're not going to be setting PRs every single session in your workouts for pull-ups. If that's the exercise that you're doing on Grease the Groove, you got to manage this mentality and understand that that is a byproduct of greasing the groove for that 4 to 6 week block that you do it with. I'd also like to mention how useful Grease the Groove is for isometrics. Let's look at handstands as an example and just say that you can do 20 seconds consistently as your maximum hold. We'd take 50% of that, so that's 10 seconds, and you just apply the same Grease the Groove principles. You're doing sets throughout the day. You're going to be auto-regulating the number of sets that you do based on fatigue. So when you start to have symptoms of being tired, maybe you're getting a bit sore, you're getting a lack of success with your handstands, that's a sign to just stop the number of sets. Otherwise, if you're getting joint or tendon pain, that's another indicator to call it quits on that. You're doing your handstands 4 to 6 days a week, and you're going to repeat that for a 4 to 6 week block. I'd like to give you an example when it comes to the front lever for progression, but this applies to any isometric, can be the planche, whatever is most meaningful to you. You can see that over time, I'm gradually increasing the intensity, and I'm also playing with the number of sets. Really straightforward, but the key is that you're consistently doing these submaximal sets several times a week, and then you're doing that for a block of 4 to 6 weeks. Expect really rapid progress when it comes to strength skills or balance skills with this particular approach, just due to the sheer amount of practice. But otherwise, you're limited by your imagination, your motivation, and your equipment availability. Grease the Groove works really well on things like push-ups because you can literally do those anywhere. There's literally no excuse because we know floor, no equipment required, making it a perfect Grease the Groove option. Otherwise, any other bodyweight exercise, dips, muscle-ups, L-sits, pistol squats, if they're meaningful to you, you can invest your time into Greasing the Groove. I'd like to leave you with a few takeaways to succeed with Grease the Groove. Number 1, start conservatively. Have 50% intensity. Use a sustainable number of sets, a sustainable number of frequency of Grease the Groove workouts per week. You can always add more over time, but it's going to be harder to manage your fatigue if you've just, from the jump, just gone as hard as possible. And it's a really common mistake that people don't play the long game, especially with Grease the Groove. It's sub-maximal. It should be easy. It's all about the totality. Just take your time and be patient with that. It's worth highlighting, do not train Grease the Groove exercises to failure. That really defeats the purpose of what we're trying to achieve. And if you're going to do this, that's just a regular workout. That's not Grease the Groove. We know we need to be working sub-maximally to get that software of our body better. Avoid that temptation of going too hard in Grease the Groove. Relax and save that for your workout. Use perfect technique. Because we're working sub-maximally, this is the perfect opportunity to use textbook technique, pauses, control the tempo, dominate the exercise, really master the movement pattern. There is no reason at all to be training with poor technique at this intensity. It's just sloppy, it's lazy. Really have to concentrate when you're doing your sets because practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice does. The biggest mistake is not greasing the groove for long enough. People will see something new, get excited, do it for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then give up. That's not enough time. That's not enough total reps to really transform your nervous system. Stick to it for 4 to 6 weeks on one exercise. Don't get distracted and start doing a different exercise every single week. You need time. Your body needs exposure. It needs to be taught how. So just avoid that trap of just getting complacent, lazy, and stopping. Please listen to your body and auto-regulate. You don't have to be rigid. You can do less sets. You can do less reps or hold time. You can modify that intensity to an extent, and you can even skip a day if you want. Being rigid limits our potential. Being flexible allows us to adapt and overcome. You have to live to fight another day, because remember, it's not what you do in one day, it's what you do in weeks and months that attributes to your progress over time. Just go for it and really do enjoy the fruits of your labor when it comes to this method, because it's so much fun to see what is possible when you improve that software of your body and improve the skill of exercise. All right, everyone, what has your experience been if you followed Grease the Groove? I'd love to hear what exercises and what protocol you used and the results you had over time. If you watch this video, I'd love you to come back and share how your Grease the Groove went as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the gains.